Welcome to Secret Affair Twist, where love hides in the shadows, betrayal breaks the heart, and every story comes with a shocking twist. Stay tuned, because the truth is never what it seems. My mother stole my husband. The truth will shock you. My name is Isabella. I am 28 years old, and for most of my life, I thought I had everything. From the outside, my world looked flawless. A strong, independent mother who raised me. After my father's early death, a husband who adored me, and a home that many would envy. To my neighbors and friends, I was the lucky one. But what no one could see was the storm quietly forming inside the walls of my so-called paradise. Because behind every smile at family dinners, behind every moment of laughter, there was something darker brewing, something that would one day shatter my life completely. This is not just the story of betrayal. It is the story of how the two people I trusted more than anyone, my husband and my mother, tore my heart into pieces. I grew up in a small town. My father died when I was 9, leaving my mother, Catherine, to raise me alone. She was strong, beautiful, and resourceful. She worked long hours, juggled 2 jobs, and still came home with a smile for me. As a child, I idolized her. She was everything I wanted to be: graceful, admired, and independent. People often told me, "You look just like your mother," and those words filled me with pride. But beneath that admiration, there were little details I ignored. My mother always loved attention, especially from men. When I was in high school, she would dress extra nicely for parent-teacher meetings. Sometimes I noticed her lingering laughs with male neighbors, or the way she would brush her hair back dramatically when a man complimented her. I told myself it was harmless. After all, she had sacrificed so much for me. Didn't she deserve to feel admired? I never imagined that craving for admiration would one day collide with my own marriage. At 23, my life took a new turn. I met Daniel at a friend's birthday party. He was kind, funny, ambitious, and had this magnetic energy that drew me in immediately. We spent the entire night talking as if we had known each other forever. Within a year, Daniel proposed. It was nothing flashy. Just a quiet evening. In the park, the stars above us, his trembling hands holding a ring. But it was perfect. I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was small but beautiful. My mother cried more than I did, telling everyone how proud she was. And Daniel, with tears in his eyes, promised to love me forever. For the first few years, life truly felt like a dream. We traveled, built a cozy home, and shared laughter that filled every corner of our house. I thought I had won the lottery of life. From the beginning, Daniel and my mother got along surprisingly well. Catherine adored him. She would often say, "He's the son I never had." At first, it made me happy. After all, isn't that what every wife wants? A husband and mother who love each other. But soon, their bond started to feel too close. Sometimes, I would come home and find them laughing together in the kitchen over a glass of wine. Other times, my mother would invite Daniel over for dinner, even if I wasn't home. One night, just weeks after our wedding, I woke up and realized Daniel wasn't in bed. I panicked and went downstairs. There he was, sitting with my mother, both of them laughing softly as if sharing a private joke. When I asked what was going on, Catherine smiled and said, "Oh, honey, you were sleeping so peacefully. We didn't want to wake you." I forced a smile. They were just bonding, I told myself, nothing more. But small moments began piling up. Daniel sometimes canceled our dinner plans, saying he had to help Mom with something. My mother constantly praised him, sometimes more than she praised me. "Isabella, you're so lucky," she would say. "Men like Daniel don't come often. If I were younger, I'd probably fall for him myself." We laughed it off at the time, but something inside me felt uneasy. Then came the night I will never forget. I returned home early one evening and found them sitting together on the couch. Their knees were touching. When I entered, they both jumped as if caught doing something wrong. "What's going on?" I asked. Daniel quickly replied, "Oh, we were just talking about a surprise for you." "Yes," my mother added with a nervous laugh. "Don't spoil it, sweetheart." I wanted to believe them. I convinced myself it was nothing. But that night, lying awake, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Over the next months, Daniel grew distant. He stopped holding my hand in public. He stopped looking at me the way he once did. And whenever I tried to talk about it, he brushed me off. "It's just work stress," he'd say. But deep down, I knew it wasn't work. I just didn't want to admit what my heart was already screaming. That my perfect life was slowly falling apart. What I didn't know then was that my worst fears were about to become reality. Because soon, I would discover the truth, and the two people I loved most would betray me in ways I never imagined. Life has a strange way of showing you the truth. It doesn't shout it in your face. It whispers, quietly, softly, through little cracks that you almost ignore, until those cracks become deep fractures that tear your world apart. For me, those cracks began to show just a few months after my marriage. Daniel was not the same man I had fallen in love with. At first, I told myself it was just the stress of work. He had recently taken on a new project at the company, one that required long hours and late nights. That's what he said, at least. But slowly, I noticed changes. He no longer kissed me when he came home. Our conversations grew shorter, more distant. The man who used to tell me every detail of his day now preferred silence. And when I asked what was wrong, he always brushed me off. "It's nothing, Isabella. Just tired," he would say, his eyes avoiding mine. But it wasn't nothing. It was something, and I felt it deep in my bones. At the same time, my mother, Catherine, began spending more and more time in our lives. Too much time. She would drop by unannounced, sometimes with dinner, sometimes with excuses like, "Oh, I was just in the neighborhood," but we didn't live near her. It was a 25-minute drive from her house to mine. At first, I thought it was sweet. Maybe she was lonely. Maybe she missed me. After all, I was her only child. But then, things started to feel different. Whenever Daniel was around, she lit up in a way that made me uncomfortable. Her laughter was louder. Her compliments came quicker. She would find reasons to touch his arm, to fix his collar, to pour his drink. And Daniel, he never pulled away. One evening, we were all having dinner together. I had cooked, as usual. Catherine took one bite and smiled politely, but then turned to Daniel. "You know, you're really lucky, Daniel. Isabella takes such good care of you." I smiled, but before I could thank her, she added with a twinkle in her eye, "Men like you don't come around often. If I were younger..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The room filled with awkward silence. Daniel chuckled nervously. I forced a laugh. But inside, I felt like someone had stabbed me. One night, Daniel's phone buzzed while he was in the shower. Normally, I wouldn't snoop. I trusted him. But something about the way his phone was turned upside down on the table made me hesitate. The screen lit up. Catherine. My heart skipped a beat. My mother. Why was she calling my husband late at night? When Daniel came out, towel around his waist, I asked casually, "Mom called you?" He froze for a second, then shrugged. "Oh yeah, she needed some help with her computer." "At midnight?" I didn't argue, but I couldn't shake off the unease. From then on, I started noticing little things I had ignored before. The way Daniel's eyes sometimes lingered on my mother, the way her hand brushed his when passing him a plate, the way they exchanged glances that seemed too knowing. It was subtle, almost invisible, but to a wife's heart, it was loud as thunder. The moment that broke me came during a family dinner. Some friends had come over, and my mother was helping in the kitchen. Daniel followed her in, supposedly to get more wine. I walked in a few minutes later, and there they were, standing too close. His hand was on the counter beside her, trapping her. Her smile was soft, not the smile of a mother-in-law. When they saw me, they jumped apart. "Oh, Isabella. We were just talking about dessert," my mother said quickly. I forced myself to smile, but something inside me cracked. That night, I couldn't sleep. I took out a notebook and began writing. Am I imagining things? Or is something really happening between them? Maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm jealous. But why do I feel like I'm losing my husband? To my own mother. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Daniel and I began fighting more often. Silly things, like the way he left his socks on the floor, or how he forgot to call me when he was late. But deep down, those fights weren't about socks or phone calls. They were about the growing distance between us. A distance that had Catherine's shadow all over it. He stopped planning date nights, stopped surprising me with flowers, stopped looking at me like I was his everything. Instead, he looked at her. One evening, I watched as my mother poured Daniel a drink. Their fingers brushed, and they both smiled. a smile that wasn't meant for me. And in that moment, I realized something horrifying. I was no longer the center of Daniel's world. I wasn't even second. Because standing right there, in my own home, my mother was slowly, silently taking my place. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I wasn't ready. But the cracks in my paradise were no longer invisible. They were wide, gaping wounds that bled into every part of my life. And deep down, I knew the truth was coming for me, a truth I wasn't ready to face. They say a woman's intuition is never wrong. I used to laugh when people said that. I believed in trust, in love, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. But now, living in the silence of my marriage and under the shadow of my mother, I realized intuition isn't just a feeling. It's a scream your soul makes when the truth is clawing its way out. And no matter how much I tried to silence that scream, it grew louder with every passing day. It was a Thursday evening. Daniel came home late again, claiming he had been at the office. He hugged me quickly, distractedly, and went to change his shirt. Something told me to check the laundry basket. Maybe it was madness, maybe it was paranoia, but I did. And that's when I saw it. On the collar of his crisp white shirt, a faint red smear. Lipstick, not just any lipstick, my mother's signature shade. I had seen her wear it for years. A deep crimson, she said, made her feel alive. My hands trembled as I held the shirt. The room spun around me. 1,000 excuses raced through my mind. Maybe it rubbed off accidentally. Maybe she hugged him too close. But deep down, I knew. It wasn't an accident. Days later, it happened again. Daniel's phone buzzed in the middle of the night. He was asleep, his hand draped over me. I carefully slid his arm away and reached for the phone. The screen lit up. Catherine. My heart stopped. My mother was calling my husband at 1:17 in the morning. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My hands were shaking, too hard. When I confronted Daniel the next day, he laughed it off. She just needed help with her TV remote. You know how bad she is with technology. At 1 a.m., I wanted to scream, but I swallowed it. Instead, I nodded, pretending to believe him. But inside, a storm raged. The following week, Daniel claimed he had to stay late at the office again. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys and decided to follow him. I parked a few cars behind his in the office lot, waiting. An hour passed. No movement. Then, I saw him. He left the office. But instead of driving home, he took a turn. That didn't lead to the highway. My heart pounded as I followed. Headlights dimmed. 10 minutes later, he pulled into a driveway. My mother's driveway. I sat there, frozen. My hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. He knocked once. She opened the door almost instantly, as if she had been waiting. They disappeared inside. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I sat there in the dark, watching the house that once felt like my second home now becoming the place of my greatest nightmare. That night, I wrote in my journal again. They're lying to me. Both of them. I saw it with my own eyes. Daniel wasn't at the office. He was at her house. Why? Why would my own mother do this? Why would the man who vowed to love me forever betray me like this? Am I not enough? Am I blind? Or am I finally seeing the truth? Tears smudged the ink. The pages curled under the weight of my pain. The final straw came one Saturday morning. Daniel was in the shower, and his phone buzzed again. This time I opened it. My heart was pounding so loudly I thought it would wake him. There it was, a string of messages from C. I miss you. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. And Daniel's replies, I'll make an excuse to come over. She suspects nothing. She suspects nothing. My vision blurred. My stomach churned. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the phone. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't imagination. It was real. My husband and my mother were having an affair. I sat on the bathroom floor while Daniel showered, clutching his phone, my chest heaving with sobs I tried to silence. When he came out, towel wrapped around his waist, he saw me. Isabella? What's wrong? I looked at him through tear-streaked eyes, but I couldn't speak. Not yet. The words were poison in my throat. I handed him the phone. His face went pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but I turned away. I can't. Not now. And I walked out. That night, I lay awake in bed, my back turned to him. He whispered my name, begged me to listen, but I stayed silent. Because I knew. I finally knew. The cracks in my marriage were no longer cracks. They were gaping wounds, bleeding truths I could no longer ignore. The man I loved. The mother I adored. They had betrayed me. Together, and soon, I would have to face them both. Some truths come slowly, like shadows creeping across the floor. Others crash into your life like a storm, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. For weeks, I lived in denial, convincing myself I needed more proof, more time, more courage. But the truth was already there, screaming in my face. And the night I finally saw it with my own eyes, my entire world shattered. It was a Tuesday. Daniel told me he had to work late again. His words slid past me like knives because I already knew he wasn't going to the office. That evening, something inside me snapped. I couldn't sit in our house, waiting like a fool. So I drove. I drove straight to my mother's house. Her lights were on. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. I parked down the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. For 10 minutes, I sat frozen, trying to summon courage. Then, finally, I walked up the path I had walked 1,000 times before as a child. The house that had been my sanctuary now felt like a predator waiting to consume me. I didn't knock. I didn't call. I had a key. I'd always had one. My mother insisted, You'll always have a home here, Isabella. With shaking hands, I slid the key into the lock and opened the door. The sound hit me first. Muffled laughter, the clink of glasses, the low murmur of voices. I followed the ooh sound to the living room, and when I turned the corner, my world collapsed. There they were. Daniel, my husband, Catherine, my mother, sitting far too close, his hand resting on her thigh, her fingers tangled in his. Their faces were inches apart, their smiles soft, intimate. For a moment time froze. I stood in the doorway, invisible, my breath caught in my throat. Then Daniel saw me. His eyes widened. He jumped up, his face pale. My mother turned, her expression freezing into shock. Isabella, Daniel stammered. I can explain. Explain? My voice cracked, raw with pain. What is there to explain? Tears blurred my vision as I looked at them. The man I vowed to love, the woman who gave me life. How could you? Both of you! Daniel reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me, I screamed. My whole body shook with rage and heartbreak. My mother stood slowly, her eyes strangely calm. Sweetheart, listen to me. Don't call me that, I spat. You don't get to call me that, not after this. You're my mother. How could you betray me like this? Her face twisted, torn between shame and something I couldn't recognize. Daniel, meanwhile, was babbling, his words tumbling out like broken glass. It just happened, Isabella. I didn't mean for it to. We didn't mean. It's complicated. Complicated? I laughed bitterly, though my chest was caving in. No, Daniel. Cheating is not complicated. Sleeping with my mother is not complicated. It's betrayal. Pure betrayal. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. My hands clutched my chest as if trying to hold the pieces of my heart together. Memories flashed through my mind. Our wedding day, my mother's tears of joy, Daniel's vows. All of it was a lie, a cruel, twisted lie. I gave you everything, I whispered. I trusted you, both of you, and you destroyed me. Daniel fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Please, Isabella, I love you. I made a mistake. Love? My voice was venom. You don't know the meaning of the word. My mother reached for me, her voice trembling now. Please don't do this. Don't turn your back on me. I stepped away, my eyes burning with fury. You turned your back on me the moment you touched him. I couldn't stay there another second. My body moved on instinct. I ran upstairs, grabbed the overnight bag I always kept at Mom's house, a bag I once thought was for comfort, for safety. Now, it was my escape. Daniel followed me, begging, sobbing. My mother called my name over and over, her voice echoing down the hallway, but I didn't stop. I stormed out, slammed the door behind me, and drove into the night. My tears blurred the road, my sobs tearing through the silence. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. I ended up in a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, The neon lights buzzed overhead as I collapsed onto the bed, my body shaking uncontrollably. I stared at the ceiling for hours, my mind replaying the scene over and over. Daniel's hand on her thigh, my mother's smile, their betrayal carved into my soul. Sleep never came, only pain, only the endless question that haunted me. Why? Why my mother? Why my husband? Why me? The next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were swollen, my face pale, my heart shattered. And in that reflection, I realized something chilling. The life I had built, the love I believed in, the family I trusted. It was all gone. But the worst was yet to come. Because the truth I had uncovered wasn't the whole truth. The deepest cut, the darkest secret, was still waiting for me. The night I saw them together never really ended. Even when the sun rose the next morning, I felt like I was still trapped in that nightmare, replaying it over and over, Daniel's lips on my mother's. Catherine's calm eyes staring back at me as if betrayal was something ordinary. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I sat on the couch all night, my journal open on my lap, my pen trembling in my hand. The words poured out like blood. They chose each other. I am nothing to them. Not a wife. Not a daughter. Just a fool who believed in love. Daniel tried again the next morning. His voice was broken, desperate. Isabella, please. Just listen. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I laughed bitterly. Wasn't supposed to be like what? Me finding out? Or you sleeping with my mother? He flinched as if I had slapped him. I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. Love? I spat the word like poison. You don't even know what love means. Before he could answer, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was. Catherine, my mother, the woman who had destroyed me. She looked composed, as if she had rehearsed this moment. Sweetheart, she began softly. Don't call me that, I snapped. You lost the right to call me that. She sighed, stepping inside. I know you're angry, but there are things you don't understand. I understand enough, I said coldly. You betrayed me. You stole my husband. Her eyes hardened. No, Isabella, you stole mine. The words hit me like a thunderclap. What are you talking about? I whispered. Catherine's face twisted with something between anger and sorrow. Daniel was mine long before he was yours. We met years ago. Before you ever laid eyes on him, we were together. I staggered back. That's not true. He never told me. Of course he didn't, she said bitterly. Because when you came into the picture, he chose you, my own daughter. Do you know what it feels like to lose a man you love to your child? My stomach churned. The room spun. You're lying. But deep inside, a part of me knew she wasn't. Daniel's silence behind me confirmed it. I turned to him, my voice breaking. Is it true? Daniel's eyes filled with shame. Catherine and we were involved before, but I ended it. Then I met you. I thought it was over. My knees buckled. I felt like the ground had disappeared. So my entire marriage, I whispered, was built on a lie. You married me knowing you had been with my mother. And you. I pointed at Catherine, trembling with rage. You let me marry him, only to take him back? Catherine's lips curled. I never let him. Go, I screamed until my voice was raw. I smashed the vase on the table, the shards scattering like the pieces of my life. You both deserve each other, I sobbed. Rot in your lies. But don't you ever come near me again. I ran into my room, packed a bag with trembling hands, and walked out the door without looking back. The weeks that followed were a blur. I filed for divorce. I blocked my mother's number. I moved into a small apartment across town. The silence of the empty rooms both a curse and a comfort. At night, the memories haunted me. The way Daniel used to laugh with me. The way Catherine used to brush my hair when I was a child. Now those memories were poisoned, tainted forever. I went to therapy, trying to untangle the mess inside me. But betrayal this deep doesn't just fade. It lingers. It burns. One night, I opened my journal again, the same one where I had written every doubt, every fear, every truth. I wrote, I am no longer a wife. I am no longer a daughter, but I am still me. And I will rebuild from the ashes of their betrayal. They can have each other, but they can never break me completely. And that, dear listener, is the truth. The truth that destroyed me. The truth that changed everything. My mother stole my husband. My husband betrayed his vows. And together, they ripped my world apart. But in losing them, I found something else. I found myself. Thank you for watching Secret Affair Twist. Join our family of viewers who live for stories of love, betrayal, and shocking secrets. Subscribe today and be ready for the next twist.